Mishra, audience from India and abroad, and the press. First of all, I am basically a field practitioner who have worked in the government sector, and for the last 5 years I have working in the public sector. This is my second stint, first working in the Konkan Railway, and presently working in the security industry. Before I go to the subject of the corporate governance actually, maybe in the end, I'll give you a small case history. How the basic point which I want to say, it is the implementation probably in our system which is lacking. There is no depth of rules, regulations, everything is provided for. It is the only thing is probably there is not much incentive for people to work actually. Since I worked with the railways with Mr. Sridharan, I worked in Konkan Railway with Mr. Sridharan as well, and people from in India, some of you who would have visited actually Delhi Metro, these are the two case studies, Konkan Railway and Delhi Metro in the public sector, which are being quoted at everywhere. The basic is the implementation. Now I'll give you the third example, the organization I'm working. We are presently, the Security Printing and Minting Corporation, as the gentleman was asking, this is only about 4 years old. It was created in 2006. I have 9 units, 2 currency note presses, 2 security presses, 4 mints, and 1 banknote paper mill. There were 9 units under Currency and Coinage Division of the Ministry of Finance, Government of India. The units are quite old, of course, like Mumbai Mint is 1829, is the oldest mint in the world functioning from the same premises. In fact, the RBI headquarters is in the Mint Master Quarters, lawn area was leased, and the RBI headquarters is in that portion. So, in our case, my units are the the children are the old, and the parent is only 4 years old. We started with 2 people, now we got 60-70 people. Now, background is, these units being in the government setup, they were highly unionized. You name a union, you name a federation, it is there. HMS, BMS, Site2, Intec, it's there. All 9 units being operated from the ministry by the Deputy Secretary and the Joint Secretary, Currency and Coinage. They had different, the 4 mints in the same business vertical had different way of working. Somewhere there is an incentive scheme going for it, somewhere there is an overtime for 11 hours, another is for 8 hours, and there is one incentive scheme with the wage pattern, HR is included, somewhere is unlimited, somewhere is limited, somewhere officers are included, somewhere not included. So with that of environment, there was no incentive for productive, and there is no linkage between what you are producing, the income and an expenditure. There were 2 different heads in government. Income is coming from one side of the budget, you spend that, and you are selling your product, and you never worry even to take your money back. Like you are selling to the state governments, if the money is not coming finally together, nobody is worrying. So with the result, what happened is, being in the government setup, this industry is such where technology you have to always be advanced actually. One way about the counterfeiter. So, being in the government setup, the procurement got delayed. The modernization of the banknote paper mill could not take place for 30 years. The currency presses, the modernization which was due in mid-80s could not take place. Finally, the government had to palm off the additional requirement for the currency note presses to RBI by modifying the statute, authorizing RBI to set up 2 banknote presses, maybe because of the shortage of money as well as the efficiency factor. So RBI set up another banknote subsidiary called Bharatiya Reserve Banknotes Limited in 98. With the result, the coins, RBI was raising an indent of about 10,000 million pieces somewhere in late 90s, and these mints were hardly produced about 3,000 million pieces. Similarly, the currency had to be imported in 97-98 for this country. About 2,000 million pieces of currency of 100 rupees or 500 rupees had to be imported. That the situation had come. Expenditure Reforms Commission in 2000 gave us a recommendation. They said the one security press which we have in Hyderabad, this is primarily for the southern states, that it can be taken by the postal department. The 2 banknote presses, if they can be taken by RBI, and the 1 banknote paper mill can be thought of giving to the private sector. And the government must think of the 4 mints and 1 India Security Press Nasik to be run by a corporate body. As usual, nobody wants to take the bad guy. RBI said, why should I take the old presses where the machinery is sort of outdated? So they refused. Postal department as such, because the demand for the postal products is coming down with the information technology coming up, they also refused. So the government thought of corporatizing these entities, and there is single management making a corporation. So the cabinet cleared this note, and that's why this corporation was became in 2006. After these units, now during having become on the corporation, in 2000 we were 25,000 employees, and by the time it became a corporation there were 17,000 employees. Now the 17,000 government employees, when you make it as a corporation, so they were put as a deemed deputation, and the negotiations with the unions went on for 2 years. Because coming to the corporation, itself, because people wanted to be as a government employees. Through a protracted negotiations which went for good about 2 years, finally a memorandum of settlement was arrived, which is a tripartite memorandum of settlement between the government, between the SPMCL management and the federation and the unions. The memorandum basically was to alleviate their fears and give them some assurances in the form of that your job is secured, we can offer BRS, you can take the BRS, but job will be secured till the time. That was one. Second was the security products secured by the government and the state government, they will be sourced first from SPMCL. In case of SPMCL cannot do, only then they will go out. And then a minimum amount of 1,200 or 1,500 crore, which was in any case to be invested for modernization in mills, will be invested by the government. And other was the implementation of the pay commission, those things, and your service conditions will be protected, blah blah. And with the result, 90% of the officers and employees opted for the corporation. Only 10% opted for to remain with the government. So today we have now left over with 14,500 employees. Now the change which has taken place in 4 years, I'm just coming to that. In 4 years, in fact the other day I was here, when my junior people we had a training program for 2 weeks where what I tell them everybody is, it is the same officers, it is the same supervisors, it is the same union people, it is the same workers. In fact it's a more depleted machinery now, 5 years down the line. What has changed is in productivity is this, it's an attitude, and it says now that rather than the individual units working, is a group working as a whole, group dynamic. There is a competition, and there is a uniformity, there is standardization. So with the result, now last year we produced 6,000 million pieces of the coins, ever highest in the history, which was we used to produce of 3,000 million pieces. The currency which we used to produce about 4,000 billion pieces, now last year we produced 7,000 billion pieces. The product prices, the currency and coin products 7, 8, 8, 9, 9, 10 and 10, 11 is same, no change. So full pay commission has been implemented, all escalation, all currency foreign exchange variation, because 95% of our raw material, paper, inks and machinery is imported, absorbing all that variation. The turnover, when this started in 2006, which was 1,200 crore, last year we had 3,200 crore of turnover. We had taken a loan from RBI, initially when the presses were modernized, that loan has been returned. Took a working capital loan from the government of 750 crore, which was to return in 4 years. So 350 crore has been returned, 350 crore will be returned in this year and next year. So practically a zero debt company. And on the top of it, we have created reserves of 1,500 crore in just 4 years. And with the result, the government has granted this corporation a mini Ratna status, normally which is granted after 3 years of performance and a consistent profitability. And the implementing all the corporate governance requirements. There is an audit committee, there is a remuneration committee, and for the last 2 years, there is a nil observations of CAG on our annual reports. So what has changed is, and I had a examination by the Committee on Public Undertakings last September. So the Finance Secretary said before that committee, if this corporation in limited period of 3 years has fulfilled all its objectives which were enshrined in the cabinet note for these mints. So the government is our beneficiary. For the 4 years, no change in currency and coinage sale price to the government, no subsidy from the government. Corporation has taken out all its debt, same units, 1500 crore reserves and surpluses are there, and we have last year, the initiative which we have taken now is banknote paper mill. We have set up a new company along with a joint venture with RBI, which will be set up in Mysore, so that in the next 3-4 years, the entire production, about 80 to 90% production of the banknote paper will be made in India. It will be 40% cheaper in cost because we are a cotton producing country. It will create a lot of jobs here. Then it gives a economic security, because tomorrow if there are any differences with a country, they can sort of block your paper supply and your economy goes by 6. So it is here. And of course, then is security from the counterfeiting. Then we have already spent about 500 crore for modernization. The decisions which in the government setup used to take for years, now we are able to do in about 6 months' time. Procurement of the machinery for the coining. We have already given an order for about 250 crore of the printing of the currency. We have set up a facility for ink production, security inks being in India, which was hanging on for years together, and setting up an R&D setup on a larger scale. So what I am saying is basically, it is the implementation which is matters. Now coming to the issues of corporate governance. My colleague, one of them just referred, it was, in fact, in my organization, the other day, I was reviewing we outsource now the security in the office boys, the drivers, and when you do the tender, you see everywhere there is a L1, and somebody quotes, and so you are hiring. But nobody sees behind what are the conditions of working of that driver. The driver which was given to me, he is supposed to work 10 hours a day, 30 days in a month, and he is paying about 6,000 salary. The day he takes leave, his salary goes. So what is happening? I as a corporation, I am taking it as a lower service. The benefit is coming to the corporation, but the other side of the implementation, which is my duty to see that he gets his minimum wages, he gets a minimum rest, that is not being implemented. So I have to talk to my HR people and I said, what is going on? Please make it sure in the tender conditions. And all these are mentioned in the tender, but only thing is there no implementation. So there are 2 points. What we were talking in the context is, as far as rules, regulations and statutes, they are there. It is question also of implementation. Now coming to the corporate governance, I think the issues which we have been debating, as far as the public sector is concerned, be under Article 20 we are a state. So all the Article 12 of the Constitution, we are a state. So all the rules and regulations of these which are applicable to the government are applicable to the PSUs. I am under this.
You are a state, therefore they have a right to go to the court if you take any action. Not government rules are not applicable. You are as a board, you have full freedom to have your own rules and regulations.
We are governed by the rules through the Department of Public Enterprises. In case the board doesn't accept those rules, you have to go to the government. Otherwise, the rules are to modify the exception. Then the government, if it doesn't want the rule to be enforced, they can do through a presidential directive. This is the official position, number 1. Second, I am also under CBC, Central Vigilance Commission. I have a CBO sitting with me. I am under CBI. I am now under Competition Commission. I am under CAG. In addition to them, I am a statutory auditor. I am an internal auditor.
RTI.
And an additional RTI. Then you ask me with my hands tied up, compete with the private fellow. That's what it is in the power sector. You have opened the power sector, my power PSUs are competing with the other private sector. I went to my IGM meet in the morning to Hyderabad. My general manager was with me. He was telling me, this is Hindustan Cables. This factory is pledged closed down. Then there, I think the other one was HMT. I saw a small shop over there. So these are behemoths which were there for 50 years. They were protected when these were protected. When you open for the competition, they have to follow all the rules, all L1 and everything. And by the time the private sector falls a fellow, negotiation gives them a tender. So we are working under that circumstances. There is no incentive for performance. There is an incentive for not to perform, take your salary, go home, and 10 years down the line the unit closes. The incentive has to be given for the people who are performing. Sridharan in Konkan Railway, in Delhi Metro, has been able to do under the same system because of delivery. There is no regular vigilance officer even today. There is not a dual charge, not in Konkan Railway nor in Delhi Metro. Even today, till today. He says, if I am there, I don't need a vigilance officer. With so many agencies behind me, how do I function? So, now I was seeing the MOU which has come from the DP the other day. The issue came of CSR. I think it's a highly debatable subject. Total CSR liability of all the PSUs together is 2,000 crore. Now question is 2,000 crore, you take it from the PSUs, give it to somebody, they do it. Or another 250 people, are in 250 PSUs with so much of organization involved in spending that money. Now that money is to be spent, there is a consultant for initial study, there is a consultant for monitoring, there is a consultant after the work is done. You don't have to do yourself. The areas are defined, so now the whole organization is working for CSR. So nobody is working for the main delivery, it is only working for CSR. Now I saw the 5 marks over there for the sustainable development. As far as the independent directors are concerned, the point which was made while of course, that will not be applicable ever to public enterprises. But in case of private sector, the independent director comes for that 1 or 2 hour meeting. The agenda which is prepared there, that is available to him, that's all. He can question on that. Beyond that, he has no access to any information. And on a going an organization, where, how can he go and just touch any topic? It's not available to him. So basic issue is, basically we have to let the people do, let the agencies do their work, and there should be incentive for implementation. In case of PSUs, when I get selected as a CMD, as a director, it takes interview, the whole process goes right up to the appointment of the cabinet committee, it goes up to 6 months. I am screened through the intelligence bureau, through the CBI, through the CBC, and the day when I am joined, I again under surveillance of IB. I am in the security organization, I am under IB. So what else do you want to survey me? Let me function, let me deliver. So this is the end result. With that note, I think I may have touched this subject a bit more, but this is a reality actually. There has to be a premium on deliverance. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, sir, for your observations, sharing the turnaround experience, and an intriguing chief guest address indeed. And now it's time for Professor Stuart Locke's concluding remarks. Over to Professor Stuart Locke.
Participants in the conference, it is an honour to be able to have participated and met people. I'm not allowed out very often at home. In fact, when the Vice-Chancellor heard that I was coming here, he sent 4 staff as a minder to ensure that I behaved myself. I come from a finance background, so I sort of lack people skills, I think, but the warmth and affection shown by everybody I have encountered at this